Hello, epic viewers from around the multiverse. Prepare to bask in unprecedented glory, because today I'm going to illustrate why Hasbro is the worst action figure company of all time in 2018. So why is Hasbro such an abysmal action figure company? Why are their figures so utterly appalling and no facets? Well, let me just delineate why right here, right now. Hasbro action figures are characterized by insipid mediocrity at best. They are a far cry from the $8 ToyBiz Marvel Legends counterparts, in stark contrast to the ToyBiz Marvel Legends action figures that retail for $8 plus tax. The Hasbro Marvel Legends figures retail for $20 plus tax, 250% more. The retail price in the ToyBiz Marvel Legends figures, in spite of this, they have less points for articulation than the ToyBiz Marvel Legends figures, and of course they have inferior sculpts, inferior aesthetics, inferior shadings, inferior textures, inferior accessories, inferior build-a-figure pieces relative to their superior predecessors, aka the $8 ToyBiz Marvel Legends counterparts that came bundled with a comic book, stellar, stupendous accessories, and of course high quality build-a-figure pieces for a burly, bulky, colossal, massive, eminently refined build-a-figure that stand at anywhere from 12 to 16 inches tall, and that dwarfed most action figures. So what I detest and disdain about the Hasbro Marvel Legends is that they just look shoddy, they look cheap, they don't warrant their asking price. NECA figures command the same price, but Hasbro action figures are not homogeneous to NECA action figures, nor action figures from Diamond Select. Hasbro action figures lack toe articulation, figure joint articulation. They have peg holes in their backs, and their paint applications just look utterly appalling, as well as their shadings. Their details are subpar. Their textures are practically non-existent relative to the textures of Spawn figures and ToyBiz Marvel Legends figures and NECA figures. You know, the whole situation is just an abomination, to say the least. It's quite a calamity. But people buy these figures in droves. They love them. Why? Because Hasbro has a master license to produce the Marvel Legends action figures. Now, Marvel Select action figures are the true successor of the ToyBiz Marvel Legends action figures. Now, while they were being created, ToyBiz was also churning out Marvel Legends action figures, but the Marvel Select action figures are a great continuation to your ToyBiz Marvel Legends action figure collection, because they coincide eminently well with the ToyBiz Marvel Legends figures. And Diamond Select Toys, they provide incredible value for your hard-earned money. The figures are sturdy, they're durable, their shadings, their textures, their sculpts are high quality. Their figures are robust. And even if you look at toy manufacturers like Bandai, they also produce high quality products. You can get the SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball Z figures, the Dragon Ball Super figures, part of, I believe, the Dragon Ball Superstars line, are decent for the price they ask. They're not bad per se, but I just feel as though the Hasbro Marvel Legends figures, just for some reason, they look like they were churned out quickly, that minimal thought went into producing them. A lot of them have open hands. Their accessories are just real cheap, flimsy, shoddy. For instance, the accessory for the Build-A-Figure Absorbing Man, his weapon is a ball and a chain that's completely comprised of one piece of plastic. Meanwhile, the $8 Absorbing Man from ToyBiz, that was part of the Hulk Classics line, that had a sturdy, durable ball and a metal chain. I'm just giving you a little example. Just compare and contrast them. You'll notice that the differences are anything but subtle. They're profound, and the shadings for the ToyBiz Marvel Legends and the NECA figures and the McFlurry toys are truly accentuated. With just Hasbro, you just get bare, minimal, bottom of the barrel or run the mill paint applications, meaning the paint applications are just anything but eye-catching and high quality. They're just minimal, just to say that it's a different character. A lot of the molds are reused. They just look non-appealing, to say the least. And when I compare them to McFlurry action figures, NECA action figures, DCUC action figures, He-Man and Masters of the Universe action figures from the Classics line and from the 200 or 2000X line, when I compare these figures to Shadowrun figures, Yu-Gi-Oh figures, all I see is just figures that are eminently overpriced, that don't warrant their asking price, or mediocre at best. So just Hasbro figures, they have a lot of hollow parts, same as our My Little Pony figures. The legs are hollow. On the inside, you can't see it because on the outside the legs appear to have plastic, but when you look closely, just like Playmates toys figures, there's a lot of hollow parts. So really the legs are more like a shell, if that makes any sense. And for their Star Wars figures, there's also hollow areas for their inside their wardrobes. You'll know what I'm talking about if you buy modern day Playmates toys, TMNT figures, if you buy My Little Pony Friendship is Magic figures, and if you buy Marvel Legends, they have pegals embedded in their back. It's just all terrible that they're truly skimping on the plastic, and a lot of them have open hands, a lot of them don't have interchangeable hands. The Build-A-Figure pieces are scrawny and dainty. The accessories are pitiful. The sculpts, the designs, the textures are all mediocre at best. The textures are practically non-existent. The faces are just atrocious. A lot of them have a lot of the female figures have a duck face. Just the whole situation is just a recipe for an unprecedented disaster, and it makes me truly want to allocate or earmark my money elsewhere and be essentially eminently deterred from buying Hasbro action figures. They have these terrible poses that you can't move the fingers out of, like this. It's truly it's an inexplicable, ineffable, unfathomable, incomprehensible abomination beyond words. And that's why I would deem Hasbro to be the worst action figure company in 2018. Perhaps the worst action figure company of all time. And the main reasons why, to recapitulate, is there's so many hollow areas in Hasbro action figures. The Star Wars action figures have hollow areas in their wardrobes. You can't even articulate their legs. They're just molded into the wardrobes. It's just pathetic. Their My Little Pony action figures have hollow areas. The Hasbro Marvel Legends have open hands. They have peg holes embedded in their backs. They probably have half as many points of the ToyBiz Marvel Legends. They look shoddy or mediocre at best, and they cost 150% more than the ToyBiz Marvel Legends. Hasbro doesn't make any large, burly, bulky, massive, colossal Build-A-Figures, and you have to pay $140 to get an abysmal Build-A-Figure. Remember Hit Monkey, remember Shadow Cat, or Kitty Pryde. I think that was a Build-A-Figure, Kitty Pryde, not Shadow Cat. I just think that the whole situation is just an outrage and is ridiculous. Not only with the Star Wars figures, and not only with the Marvel Legends, but also whatever else they produce. I know they're going to muck up the Power Rangers Legacy collection line. I know that anything that Hasbro gets their fingers on is just going to culminate in being a disaster beyond fathoming. and I know that they're going to bastardize any action figure line that they have the license to. So I just hope that they lose all their licenses and that they no longer manufacture action figures, because as a totality they've done an abysmal, appalling, egregious job, and I'm not going to support these practices by relinquishing my hard-earned money and selling for less, when so many action figures that have merit and so many more facets costed roughly 40% of the retail prices of the Hasbro action figures. Is just despicable, disgraceful, and appalling that they have the gall to charge at least $20 per figure, and their action figures lack any semblance of true merit. So I'm done ranting and raving and prattling on and on. If you want to collect action figures, collect action figures from NECA, from McFlaren, from Diamond Select Toys, from Bandai, and from other companies that are worth their salt. Hasbro, unfortunately, is not, and even Mattel produces action figures that have merit every now and then. So I hope that you found this video to be insightful and strong and informative, and of course, bedazzling. Have a wonderful, marvelous, blissful, glorious day. Goodbye.